but hear the clashing discords and the din of blood.
Hello, I'm Andrew Bazance, the artistic director of Eugene Opera. This past fall, Eugene Opera created a competition for new vocal compositions called Songs for Quarantine. We wanted to share new works which reflected the issues of current times as seen through the lenses of poetry and music. We issued a call for scores to composers around the country and assembled a panel of 3 prominent composers to judge the submissions. Laura Kaminsky, composer of the poignant and timely opera As One, John Glover, composer of the opera Lucy, which will be seen on Eugene Opera's stage in the near future, and Damien Jeter, known to Eugene Opera's audience as a bass baritone, but who is also a notable composer with commissions from Washington National Opera and the Oregon Symphony. We expected about 24 submissions at most. We received over 100. Our judges chose their top 5, and we are thrilled to present them over the next few months. Our first winning composition, Deep in the Quiet Wood, is by composer Joshua Fishbein with a text by prominent African-American poet James Weldon Johnson. I recently spoke with Joshua about the creation of his work.
Welcome. It's wonderful to talk to you.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Let me ask you, what led you to conceive of this piece?
Well, I was lucky to win a composition contest with a chamber music series in Montreal, Canada. And as part of the prize of winning the competition, I was asked to compose a new piece. They had it completely open. I could compose any text setting I wanted, but it did have to be for solo voice and piano. And so this is what I composed for that opportunity.
That's wonderful. How did you come to find the piece of poetry that you chose to set?
Honestly, I just found it on the internet. I was looking for public domain poetry so that I wouldn't have to hunt down the copyright holder, or in some cases the poet, to get permission. Of course, I was aware of James Weldon Johnson's other writings, especially Lift Every Voice and Sing. You know, it's probably what he's most famous for writing. But I was pleased to discover Deep in the Quiet Wood. I think it's a beautiful poem with a clear structure, and it's about music, which is also great.
Well, that leads into my next question. What about the poetry, and I think specifically the rhythm of the text, did you find particularly compelling? Was it something that just immediately struck your ear as something natural to set?
I'm not sure if I really thought about the rhythm of the words as much as I did the way that each line was structured. I find it very helpful that the poem has punctuation. There are sentences and questions which are very helpful for me when I'm setting poetry to music, as opposed to some other more modern poetry, which is also settable, that does not have punctuation and is not structured with sentences. But I find that harmony mirrors sentence structure, and punctuation provides a lot of useful feedback for me about where to have singers pause or take breaths. Again, it's about music as well as nature, which provides a wealth of inspiration. There's a term Wondrous Scale, and I compose part of a whole tone scale with the Wondrous Scale in the poem. The poem also refers to God's grand cathedral organ, and I've had many rewarding experiences singing in cathedrals. When I lived in San Francisco, I sang at Grace Cathedral, and I'm on the sub-list here in the DC area at Washington National Cathedral, singing there as well. And so that drew me to this poem as well, God's grand cathedral organ. The diapason, which is part of the organ, the diapason of God's grand cathedral organ. And the poem also refers to holy harmonies, which I try to paint with part of the Lydian mode. Actually, as a music theory professor, I was also surprised and pleased to see the tonic chord being referenced. And I even tried to compose a tonic chord with the tonic chord, but it didn't quite work out. So I used the Neapolitan chord instead there. Yeah, these were all part of what drew me to the poem.
It's interesting to hear you describe the sort of relationship of the text to then your harmonic language. I think the piece itself is very rich and beautiful harmonically, clearly reflecting the beauty in the text. At the same time, is this piece similar to the harmonic language of other work that you've composed?
Thank you very much for that compliment. Yeah, I think it's similar in some ways and different in others. The harmony in some cases is jazz and blues inspired, which I've certainly referenced in other compositions, although it was a conscious choice in this case because of the poet James Weldon Johnson, who is associated with the Harlem Renaissance. But I also have that in some of my other music, which has flavors of Gershwin mixed in with Western tonal harmonic language. Yeah, I think it's the lush harmonies are definitely a characteristic of my other writing in general. I think that's a general characteristic of my composing.
This piece is not only incredibly beautiful, but it's very related, I think, to just the overall ethos of art song, of this sort of idea of, as harmonically rich as it is and as beautiful as the vocal line is, keeping things compact and keeping things all in relation to each other. And it's one of the things that I've liked most about the piece. I think our performer really captured that. He's somebody who has a lot of experience with Schubert and Schumann. And I was wondering, I know we've talked about the influence of jazz and American music in your music. What other composers or teachers have had a significant impact in the way that you view the world compositionally?
Well, my teacher, David Conti from the San Francisco Conservatory, still continues to be a phenomenal mentor. I was really lucky to find him and to work as his assistant conductor and to really learn how to set words to music. I would credit him especially with teaching me how to set the English language to music. He would have all of his composition students and the other composers in the department who weren't studying with him memorize the poetry that we were to set to music. So we would decide on the poem and we would have to memorize it and recite it to him and to the class in a way that communicated the meaning of the words as if we were actors and actresses reciting our lines, which is really what the performers are doing on stage, is they're communicating the words. And if the composer is able to do that as well, I think it makes the text setting stronger.
One final question. What are you working on now?
Honestly, I'm not writing anything right now. I just finished a 20-minute piece for solo soprano, solo alto, chorus, violin, cello, and piano that tells the story of my family's survival during the Holocaust in Greece. And that piece is being premiered remotely by the Washington Master Chorale, a chamber choir from the Washington Master Chorale, on May the 21st. So that premiere is coming up, and I worked really hard to get that one done.
Well, Dr. Fishbein, it's been a pleasure to talk to you.
It's been a pleasure to talk with you too, Andrew. Thank you.
Now, as performed by baritone Zachary, Lenox, and pianist Nathalie Fortin, here is Deep in the Quiet Wood.
bowed down in heart? Do you but hear the clashing discords and the din of life? Then come away, come to the peaceful wood, here bathe your soul, here bathe your soul, here bathe your soul in silence. Listen now from out the palpitating solitude. Do you not catch, yet faint, elusive strains? They are above, around, within you, everywhere, everywhere. Silently listen. Clear, 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 and still more clear they come. They bubble up in rippling notes and swell in singing tones, in singing tones. Now let your soul run the whole gamut of the wondrous scale until responsive to the tonic chord, the tonic chord. It touches the diapason of God's grand cathedral organ, filling earth for you with heavenly peace and holy harmonies. And holy harmonies. And holy